Welcome to
Parsec Passion, a podcast about Disney Plus's, Star Wars's The Mandalorian. I'm Bubba, and with me this week is somebody who likes to hide in his crib. It's Catfish. Catfish, how you doing?
If I don't hide in my crib, horrible things can happen to me, like 2020.
Oh no, stay in there, baby Yoda. Stay in there. We are a podcast focused on The Mandalorian, the fun, the thrills, the excitement. We speculate on this show. We're going to be doing one thing here at Double P Podcast that we've become world famous for, Catfish.
What is that, Bubba?
Poor insight, but also that frame-by-frame breakdowns of the latest trailer from The Mandalorian.
You know, Bubba, I am completely surprised. You know, there are good ideas out in the world that people come up with, and then other people steal them and become famous.
Yep.
I'm so surprised that no one has stolen this idea from us, frame by frame of a television series trailer.
Now, let me tell you something, Catfish.
Tell me, Bubba.
So many other podcasts out there, other Star Wars superfans, like to say they do a frame-by-frame analysis. But guess what they don't do? A frame-by-frame analysis. That's right,
I was going to say that.
Oh, wait. Okay, let's try it again then. Catfish, you know what a lot of other podcasts claim to do, but they never do?
What's that?
Wait.
I'm in mid-season form, Bubba.
So what I mean, listeners, is that they claim to look at a trailer frame by frame, but they're really looking at a trailer shot by shot composition, maybe scene by scene. No, we are the only ones who look at a trailer frame by frame.
That's probably why our frame by frame podcasts take about 7 hours.
Exactly right.
So buckle up.
So I have downloaded the trailer from YouTube. So that means the frame rate's going to be slightly different from some of our past frame-by-frame looks. But this frame, the YouTube version, has 2,682 frames.
All right. So we're probably going to be, some frames we'll talk about for less, and some frames we'll talk about more. But I'm going to guess an average of 1 minute per frame. So what is that, like 6 hours? Something like that?
Something like that. We're going to have to cover it unlike any other Star Wars podcast.
I think maybe actually I'm rethinking. I think it's like 400 hours.
Yeah, I think it's like a couple weeks. So, Catfish, before we even touch about this trailer, I want to get your thoughts. It's been a year. We're looking at season 2 about a month from now. How are you holding up?
You mean regarding The Mandalorian or just in general?
Maybe how about this? Just about The Mandalorian. How are you feeling now that we're heading into season 2 and the Mando has a mission? They're going to talk about it at the start of this trailer. It's the one we learned his mission was at the end of last season. He's got to find these ancient wizard warriors who we might believe are called the Jedi and return Baby Yoda to them. You think that's a good plot to drive us through season 2? Will he discover Yoda's species or the Jedi in season 2? How you feeling after all these months?
I'm super excited just in general regarding this trailer. It got me super, super pumped for the season. Put him on some adventures. I want to say I really enjoyed the first season, but it felt like there was a lot of backtracking.
At times,
we reconnected with people, which we did like. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of this being an adventure, and also this is kind of a spoiler alert for probably 1,300 frames in.
Yeah.
But I want to say I love that they address and dropped in the trailer one of our big discussions from the first season of The Mandalorian, Bubba.
They did.
And that was, okay, what is more irresponsible with Twoda, my appellation for Baby Yoda species?
Tween Yoda, Twoda.
Is it more dangerous to leave him when you go somewhere, like in the ship? Or is it more dangerous to take him out? So I thought it was funny. It's nice that, they listened to our podcast.
Finally.
They responded to it, and they said, we better drop that into the trailer, because it really is, it's 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other. Like, where's the worst place to keep him?
They're almost like their own foundling group there in the Mandalorian culture. Baby Yoda and Mando, a.k.a. Din Djarin. What do you think they'll call him? You think more people will call him Din or Djarin or Mando, as they like to slang him in season 1? What do you think season 2? We'll get to hear his name more or not?
Well, I would think maybe hear his name more. That was another thing that I kind of made fun of in the first season. Even if there's not a lot of Mandalorians around, it's a race. You don't refer to someone by their or a group of people. You don't say like, hey, what's up, Jew?
Well, hold on. Yes, that it seems offensive. But if we have our good friend Peter in Australia, you don't think if Peter came and visited us, we might be going, hey, there's the Aussie. Hey, Aussie, what's up? Or our buddy Bucho down in New Zealand, if we called him, hey, Kiwi, hey, here comes the Kiwi. Maybe that wouldn't seem so bad.
I mean, you might want to do it a few times.
Every time.
But if you introduce him to somebody, you take him out to meet your friends, and you're like, yeah, hey Kiwi, tell him what you do.
Come on, it's the Kiwi. We love Bucho. We love Peter down in Australia.
It's not the Kiwi, it's just Kiwi.
How about Dooley? You think Dooley's Welsh? Hey, Welsher. Do you think Dooley's England? So we could call him English? There's the Englishman. There's the Saxon.
Here's fish and chips.
Okay. Listen, we got to get to this trailer. Listeners, we've been being silly so far. We want to hear your thoughts. What do you want to see in season 2? What do you need to see? We were really high. It felt all Star Wars fans were really high on season 1. But of course, for season 2, you do have to raise that bar a bit. The way we want you to contact with us is this podcast is everywhere. If it's on YouTube, subscribe, leave us comments, tell us there. If you listen to it, downloading it from iTunes, for example, please give us a written iTunes review. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at @PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P, then the letters HQ for headquarters at @PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. If you have a special frame that we don't talk about enough in this coverage, please let us know. Catfish, are you ready?
If we're going to talk about everybody's frames, aren't we? I mean, even if you don't have a favorite frame, we're going to talk about it. And if you do have a favorite frame, we're also going to talk about it. Now, Bubba, this is the start of a new season, so I want to say this.
Okay.
We, to reward our loyal listeners who provide us feedback, who spread the word, is what we do every season is we give out some prizes.
And we have some great prizes we're going to give away this year. Incredible gifts.
Oh my God. This is one that I got for myself.
Yep.
And I'm going to send it. It is amazing. It is a Funko Pop. It's the Mandalorian on Blurg.
Oh, that is sweet. That is expensive. Everybody loves Funko Pops. And this is a 2-for-1 because you get Din Djarin, a.k.a. the Kiwi, as well as a Blurg. That's pretty sweet.
It's amazing. Only the Mandalorian's head is a bobblehead. The Blurg's head does not bobble. Still, quite a delight. And for you to receive it from the Parsec Passion podcast, it's a triple honor.
Okay, Catfish, how about we get into the trailer? And I'm looking, unlike most trailers we cover where they fade up from black and we have to discuss black or barely viewable things, right here, frame 0, frame 1 in this entire thing, we are seeing some foreign world. And this is a great thing to talk about frame by frame. It's a sandy brown world. And a question, it's a system, I should say, in the Star Wars parlance. A question for you, though, is this the system, a.k.a. the planet, or is this the desert moon of something? What do you think? Just looking at this first frame, what do you think?
I am going to say moon simply because of the coloring. To me, it looks like a butt.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's got the black mark down the middle, like the crack of the butt. This is like a planet butt for me. So because it's a butt, I'm going to say moon.
That's no moon.
Here's a moon.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I am going crazy, and because I know we're going to see something several frames from now,
Don't spoil it.
I will say it's a moon, not a planet.
Okay.
And so that is frame 1. Let's go to frame 2.
Okay, yeah,
And
let's
so
do that.
it is moved ever so slightly because it's like rotating, or either the camera's rotating. And so on this frame, we're still seeing the brown, sandy moon or planet. So on frame 2, Catfish, what do you think? Moon or planet?
I think definitely still a moon here in frame 2.
Well, okay, I'm going to jump up to frame 3, moves a little bit, 4 moves a little bit, 5 moves a little bit. And so is it our view is moving, or is it this formation moving? So only planets rotate, right? Moons don't rotate, do they?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh boy.
Listeners, let us know at PHQ on Twitter and Instagram. Help our astronomy hearts out. Now it is I'm trying to find the exact frame. So we've gone frame 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's just moving a little bit. On frame 12,
Bubba, it was on when we got to frame 12. It was when I discovered through research that the moon doesn't rotate, but it does spin on its axis.
Oh, there we go. So this is either a moon or a planet. But
That's
I was
what we
going to say
discovered
here,
in frame. Yeah.
Here on frame 12, then you go to frame 13, you see a little bit more. Frame 13, 14, 15, and so you start to see something over the horizon. It's this white semicircle that's coming into view. And so here I'm on frame 48, so we've already gone a second and a half into this thing.
Holy cow, we are flying through this.
We are. And so you can see here, we'll stop right here on frame 70, that you can see this blue image in the distance. And so as we come around...
so I wanted to say, sorry, in frame 48, I thought that this was a planet... And then I thought that what was coming over, because I only saw white, was a moon. Mm-hmm. But when you get to frame 71, your perception completely changes. Because now this looks like a planet.
You mean in the distance?
Coming over the horizon. Yeah, the planet's coming over the horizon. It's like if you move forward and you see past the ass, you see a planet.
Okay, so here's where I'll say to you, I'm still not sure. This sandy thing could be the planet, and the blue thing could be a moon, because in Star Wars, think of history and stuff, you'll hear the forest moon of Endor, or the blank moon of this. And in fact, in the Rise of Skywalker, I'm pretty sure we didn't go to the forest moon of Endor in the film. We saw it, I guess, with Ewok Wicket at the end, and Wicket's child. But we went past that moon to a different moon, which had an ocean and wreckage of the second Death Star in it. So I think there's still a chance that this blue sphere coming up, and we've jumped ahead to frame, we are flying. We're up at frame 128. Half of the planet is out. Yeah, okay,
hold right there, because it's at this point where my perception completely changed.
Oh, no.
And this is why it's important to watch. Now I thought, you know what? Maybe these are two planets.
This close to each other?
That's very close for two planets to be next to each other. That's why when we got to frame 141, I went back to, this is a moon, and what we're seeing exposed by the buttocks of this moon is a planet.
Well, you keep calling it, shamefully, a buttocks, just because the planet seems to have this darker brown slash down it. So it's a planet in the distance. We're not going to know for sure, but the planet is definitely blue. So do you think that planet is going to have a mostly water like Earth? You would assume so. Any idea of what planet this could be, Catfish?
Definitely is Earth.
That would be an awesome, awesome surprise. I'm going to talk about it when we get to this point later in the trailer, but I think it's possibly an ocean planet, which our friends Admiral Akbar and fellow Mon Calamari are from. But we'll We'll get to that in a bit. Next up is...
that second guy sounds delicious.
He is. Okay, so it is finally on frame 209.
Uh-oh.
Where you begin on the very far left side of the screen to see these black humps appear. And then as we go forward, frame by frame, we see a spaceship that is in the dark. It's in the shadow of something. And when we get up to frame 233, we see that it is the Razor Crest. Mando's ship. There's a little lens flare coming in at frame 242. And we see that's from one of its right engine. And at first, when I saw this, I thought, oh, this thing looks fine. But as we go forward and go frame by individual frame, you can see that this ship is not in good shape. The back hanger of the ship, the back kind of flap that falls down so you can load giant cargo on the ship, it's open, it's flapping. That's, once again, frame 280. You go
now,
forward some more. It just looks beat up.
Bubba, shouldn't that be stowed away and secured during flight operations?
Right. You don't leave the cargo hold wide open unless, you're a Delta. So this is bad seeds, dude.
Or unless it's a Tom Cruise movie and he's about to jump out and skydive down to the planet.
So this ship, I think we have to assume, is that this ship has been damaged most likely in some sort of space battle.
Oh, no.
I think you would assume that Mando and Twota are on the ship, and they are just kind of barely holding it together. Both engines are up and firing, and they've been damaged. So is this a escape after Moff Gideon? Yet we reach up to frame 370. Sparks are flying off that right engine. This shows us that as competent as the Mando is, sometimes he takes damage. And right now, in this case, his ship has been effed up.
Now, quick question here, Bubba. I hate to be stuck on this, but they've taken up so many frames on it that obviously they want us to focus on what's happening. How would you be able to fly if you're up without any atmosphere and your cargo doors open? Does Mando have some sort of oxygen system inside of his mask that we're not aware of? What about Twota?
Well, we know that there seems to be a way that he can shut the door to the cockpit of the Razor Crest, his ship. So you might assume that you could shut that and it would be sealed, shut, and you would just have the air system in there. It's definitely trouble.
I don't know how low he is close to the planet. Also, I don't really know the atmosphere of this planet. But, you get out to a certain height and, things get kind of... Anything that's not tied down is going to get sucked right out of there.
Without question. Frame 440. We're already up to 440 frames. That right engine, which has been sparking, it is now flashing. So as you go frame by frame, you can see that the engine just kind of... It's not a consistent bit of power hitting from it. It's in bad shape. And then we have bad news, Catfish.
Worse news? What is it?
At frame 479, it cuts to black.
Oh, boy. It's curtains for our heroes, no doubt.
Right. So then out of the distance, and you start around frame 494, you can begin to see what's coming up. It's the most popular logo of all, and that's Lucasfilm Limited.
Oh, okay.
One thing that I thought, and I know this is the most minor thing to dwell on, but the Lucasfilm logo, I was almost shocked they didn't use that kind of Star Wars special logo that seemingly they're going to use for their TV shows. That kind of Star Wars that it's all written across in light letters, but no, they're using the Lucasfilm logo.
What conclusion do you draw from that?
Well, I don't know. It's interesting. I assume we'll see both, but just trying to get out, Lucas's name, keep giving love to the giving love to the creator.
Now, when did this other logo? You're a lot more focused on the logos than I am. This other logo that you're talking about, was that the one they were using for the latest Star Wars movies, or is this
no. This was just in front of the Mando, where you would see a flash of like a stormtrooper mask, and then a flash of a C-3PO mask, and then a flash to another mask.
I'm just thinking if the logo you're talking about is a new logo, maybe they set up different shell corporations to hide behind. So maybe this is just an officially a Lucasfilm, and the other one is going to be kind of set up in a different division.
Okay, so Catfish, as we've been talking, frames have been moving forward. We're at frame 631, and
still very dark.
Still very dark. It's fading up from the black. But as we go forward, we can see this is civilization because they're lights. They're man-made lights. These aren't, this isn't Avatar where the world glows.
It is, but it really feels like a desert community in the 50s. This is not like some fancy new downtown. These all look like, based on the lights, it looks like some low-slung ranch-style one-level houses.
Right, in the distance, but there are also these tall spire-like things that you can see. And we should point out that center frame, we see Mando walking forward, and is the pram, Baby Yoda's pram, is together. They have what's interesting is they have a spotlight coming down on them because you can see the ground right underneath them. And it's kind of shocking in a way to see this. So what I think, if you're going to take this frame by frame and look at it frame by frame like we are, the one thing you can tell is when Mando walks, you can normally see his big, long sharpshooter gun over his shoulder, right? But he doesn't have it in this. Does that imply that when he's on this world, he feels safe? Does it imply that somebody took that big, long blaster from him? What do you think, Catfish?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it means he lost it in a bar bet.
Just like Lando in the, Lando lost the Millennium Falcon, Mando lost his long rifle. That would be really shocking. I, for one, want to say that just seeing more civilization, Star Wars, one thing they couldn't do really until the prequels was show like mass civilization. So we saw Queen Amidala, a.k.a. Padme's planet of Naboo, and there was like a big city there. But then we went to Coruscant. The planet is one big city, as my buddy Rick Ollie would like to say. And so I like seeing civilization. I think it's easier from a production standpoint to just go out into some desert, go out into some frozen Ford and say, okay, this planet is not very populous. But I like seeing them in society. And in fact, when we cut to what we should assume is an over-the-shoulder shot of Mando and Baby Yoda entering this area where this civilization on frame 746, this, to me, is really fun. As they're walking in, we see these streetlights, which seem to be casting down on them. And we see, this isn't Coruscant. This isn't one planet that's nothing but a city. But it is civilization. You can see lights. You can see buildings. I'm thrilled that we're getting into that type of environment.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Like you said, it was hard to think of first Star Wars as sort of like it was a thriving universe,
right,
when a lot of the planets we went to were inhabited by, beings that really made their living in the forest, desert planets that were sparsely populated. And the only real, I feel like in the first three that, we saw, the only thing that was advanced was the Death Star,
Right, that's where everybody lived,
Yeah, because the planets were, like I like to say, real shitholes.
Hey now. I think that's one of the reasons. I know so many Star Wars fans got frustrated with the changes that Lucas made in the special editions he released of the original 3 movies in the late 90s. To me, that was Lucas. He was like, when I made Star Wars, I always wanted the first ship to be a silver ship, but we couldn't do it with blue screen technology. So suddenly Queen Amidala in the very first movie, Phantom Menace, has a silver ship, so we can do that. He wanted Mos Eisley, the city on Tatooine, to kind of be the one bubbling metropolis on Tatooine, right? But he goes there and he can't afford to populate it with stuff. So suddenly when these special editions come out, suddenly we've got CG creatures galore. We've got a billion ships. It's just really too much, in my opinion, and seemingly the opinion of a lot of Star Wars fans. And so here, the Mando, it's going to be interesting. This season was filmed before COVID really hit. If they needed to have crowd scenes or fights close contact, not socially distanced, they could. But it'll be interesting going forward if for season 3, suddenly Mando is back on barren planets without anything?
Yeah, that is a really good question. Just Bubba, just to give you sort of a little insight here.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Just a couple weeks ago, I actually worked on a film set myself, and actually one of the things I did was there was about about 30 background people.
Oh wow! And they were close together background people, or they were spread out?
They were close together background people.
Wow.
The whole setup was, you had to get a COVID test, and then when you would come onto set, you'd get the temperature check, and when people were not acting or whatever, everyone had to mask up, and then when we were on camera, we were all standing close to each other.
Dang! All right. Are you safe? You test? Can you tell us what this was, or is this a surprise?
It was some movie. These people are making movies. I can't believe it. They make a movie in 10 or 11 days. When I went to meet with the director, he's like, I've produced 180 movies. This is the first movie I'm directing. So I think it's going to be a Bruce Willis, Megan Fox straight to Netflix.
Oh,
flick.
Great.
Yeah.
Those are two stars that we definitely haven't seen in too many movies.
Well, let's just put it this way. They said they shot a movie with Bruce Willis in February in Cleveland, that they shot the movie in 10 days and they shot him out in 2.
Whoa. Look at this. You come all the way to Cleveland for the welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah. So it is definitely a lot more burdensome, but if a movie that is headed straight to Netflix can do it, people will figure out how to do it.
Okay. Back to the trailer, I want to say it starts on frame 803. So once again, Mando and Yoda are walking into this city. And in the bottom left-hand side, in what is pure darkness, you begin to see these 2 red lights show up. And they look like eyes, possibly of a droid or something, or an alien creature which would have red eyes that would shine like that. And that, to me, is so much of a Star Wars look. It's probably nothing. It's just there to show you, hey, there's some little creature as to the left of them as they walk in. I love it.
But Bubba, you pick that up, but if you stay on that same frame, you can also see that there might be a creature very, very up high, also with red eyes, or it could just be lights.
Right, exactly. I love it. So, okay, we're going to get to the next frame, and it starts fading up at about 8:51 and 8:52. And we'll go forward till we see this is a sand person. This is a Tusken Raider up on top of a bantha. This implies we're back on Tatooine. And so, Catfish, let's get to a philosophical debate. In season 1 of the Mando, I wasn't the only one who felt this way, but for me, the worst episode featured Toro Calican. And where was that episode set? It was set on Tatooine, a planet that Star Wars fans have known and seen so much of. And so I don't want to say it was just Toro that made that episode kind of crummy, but that episode was my least favorite of the first season. And so seeing this bantha and this sand person, of course I loved that. It harkens back to my childhood when I saw Star Wars for the first time and could barely understand what was happening. But part of me thinks, oh, please no. Please no. No more. Well, Toro's dead, we should assume. But remember, there were those feet that walked up to Ming Wang's character at the end of the episode, and they made that jingle like they had spurs. And so what are you, I've given you a lot of rope here. Do you like Tatooine? Do you like coming back here? Does this imply that we're going to follow up on this Boba Fett story?
Well, it's kind of fascinating because I thought maybe, in that first season, it was the same thing where it was, for me, it was when they were really kind of trying to maybe do fan service and involve other things to sort of anchor it more in the Star Wars universe. I didn't need that, and I thought maybe they would realize that after the first season. I mean, it's given. I understand. There's a Mandalorian. We're in the Star Wars universe. We don't need to. I feel like we don't need to tie it into other things for it to be cool. I think it's cooler for them to do their own thing.
Catfish, I completely agree. I should point out that the Ming Wang's character was Fennec Shand. That was part of the bounty that Toro Calican and Mando went to go fetch. and her body was dead. And once again, at the end of that episode, we saw the feet come up. But this definitely, far in the distance, and it starts coming in, I've paused it here at frame 903, that is the Razor Crest flying over Tatooine. He's come back. Why would Mando come back? What is positive about this, and I really love, is that around frame 923, the bantha starts opening its mouth, and the original banthas were just elephants in fur costumes, and they really couldn't do very much. They weren't shown very much in that first movie, A New Hope. And so the fact that this bantha can open its mouth and turn its head, I love it.
Well, it's now that we're talking about things that I wasn't super jazzed about in the first season, and again, it's not really that big of a deal, but it felt like for a while they didn't quite know, he had different plans regarding Twoda. But now that he has a plan to reunite, I hope that that's the main thrust of the whole season. I mean, I don't mind individual serial type one-off episodes that are kind of fun, but there was a little bit too much of, no, I'm going to do this, no, I'm going to do that.
Adventure of the week. Yeah.
It felt like it was a little bit marking time as far as the overall plot.
As we get up to frame 952, we're on black, and it's fading up on what is obviously a snow planet. And at frame, what is that?
Are you sure this is
958?
You sure this just isn't Tatooine in the winter?
I would love it if that was that. Wouldn't that be great? And this canyon we see here is Beggar's Canyon. Beggar's Canyon in the cold. Once again, Mando's ship flies in, the Razor Crest. This time the back cargo load door is closed. It looks like it's in better shape. And so now, Star Wars fans, they love a good callback. We've seen 3 planets with any sort of snow in the Star Wars film trilogy. Obviously, we saw Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back, and it's
cold there.
Very cold there. We saw in The Force Awakens, we saw Star Killer Base, which was a planet that was a weapon planet, that they had gutted out the planet, made this planet sun-sucking, planet-destroying thing. And then in The Rise of Skywalker, we saw Kijimi.
Bless you.
Any guesses if this is one of those, Catfish, or is it a new snow planet? What do you think?
I mean, like I just said, I hope it's new. I don't really, because when you do involve things from the other Star Wars, all the other Star Wars content, I feel like you kind of like you got to try to cram it in and figure out where things are and how it might have affected other things, when I don't want them to be restricted like that unless they're going to do something super cool to tie it in, but it feels like that would be very difficult to do. We already have this world. We already have this thing where we have, Twoda is almost like a, if not now, we eventually imagine will be like a weapon of mass destruction. And so had he been involved in any of the later movies, it feels like that would have thrown those plots and the power dynamics out of whack. So I think in order to not think about how Twoda could have affected things, it's better to just stay away from that as much as possible.
Well, I should point out that there's a chance I forgot a snow planet, and that was in the infamous Order 66 sequence of Revenge of the Sith. Ki-Adi-Mundi was on a planet where it looked like there might have been snow falling. It's a planet called Megiddo, and there was a brief shot of that. But I do want to say that, Catfish, Star Wars fans, whether it's true or not, some have been wondering, because this planet does have this big gorge, this big canyon here in the snow planet, in Star Killer Base, got gutted and had a huge canyon across the whole way. People are saying, is this the planet that became Star Killer Base? And of course, that planet, Star Wars super geeks will know that it was a planet called Ilium. Ilium was a planet where, in legend lore, young Padawans would go to Ilium, this snow planet, to get their Kyber crystal, the crystal that would power their lightsaber. And then, as part of the First Order's evilness, they destroyed Ilium and turned it into Star Killer Base. So people are wondering that. We have no idea. Catfish and I don't seemingly have any spoilers, so we won't say, but I know I have heard that out in Star Wars Twitter and Star Wars thoughts like that.
Bubba, I don't have the encyclopedic knowledge of you. Why is it in my head that in Rogue One, when they went to go do their big snatch, that was just a mining planet, right? I felt like I saw snow on that planet.
That's another good. That was okay. So you're right, boy. I keep forgetting of all the snow we've seen. So,
you know what? This is only a miracle and a point to be remembered for the rest of my life was because I remembered something that was valuable and also correct.
It felt more like rain than snow to me, Catfish. I think.
Okay, all right. Well, let's say, can I have frozen rain and then we can just both be right?
Never.
All right. Well, that's all right.
Okay, that was Edu. They went to. You know what I mean?
Like I said, Edu.
It's a storm-stricken planet, Catfish, the great planet of Edu.
Okay, they're not officially a snow planet, just a planet that has a variety of weather.
Okay, and now here comes our first money shot at frame 1005.
I thought the money shot was the butt right off the top.
No, it's a shot of baby Twoda in the snow.
Oh,
man, he's cute, isn't he? We see Mando's foot on and legs, I should say, because his feet get buried in the snow on the right side of the screen. He's not in his pram. He's going to let baby Twoda play in the snow. This will be fun, heartwarming. We can see the Razor Crest in the background of this shot. Is
Twoda cold-blooded, or I just don't know. He's always walking around with his feet. He seemed to do fine in the desert planets. He's fine in the desert planets and in the snow planets?
Wherever he goes, that's where he is.
Oh, man, and so we have Mando.
Yeah.
Eventually bends down to get on Twoda's level.
Yeah, he kneels down.
As close as he can. To get to Twoda's level, he would have to lie completely flat, but he doesn't quite do that.
What I think is interesting is, once again, he doesn't have his big, long rifle over his shoulder, so I'm going to assume in this snow, Mando feels safe.
I'm going to say, he lost it in a bar bat.
Okay, now we get to it, and this is where I'm going to go off on my crazy tangent. So on frame...
so this is your first one.
Yes, okay. All those others were sane tangents. This is my first crazy tangent. So on frame 1092, we enter a planet, and this is another population center. There are lots of creatures here. We see several, including on the far left of the screen from the front, and then we see a couple from behind on the right of the screen. Aliens that are known as Quarren aliens. These first appeared in Return of the Jedi. They look like they have Davy Jones a bit from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, meaning they have these long, seemingly tentacles hanging down the front of their face. And we see on the very far left, we see water, and we see that these are docks. We are on docks on top of water.
Yeah, it looks like we see lots of fishing nets.
Yep, exactly right. That tells you you're on water. Now, is this the Mando? Because we see someone with a Mandalorian helmet and a jetpack walking. There's some aliens in front of him.
Bubba, let's talk about a couple things that are interesting. And again, the only thing I have encyclopedic knowledge about Star Wars is about snow planets. But
right.
Have we seen these what appear to be, I don't know, we're only seeing the backs of, it appears to be a parent and child. They appear to be some sort of fish or creatures, and the child appears to have a pack on the back with water in it, which would seem to me to be like what a human would need, an oxygen tank if they went into the water. This looks like a water tank for a water creature.
That's exactly what it looks like. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And my question is, have we seen these creatures, or I guess the ones I'm seeing from behind are just the ones we're also seeing from the front. We've seen those kind of creatures before.
Right. We've seen the Quarrens before, these kind of orangish creatures where their heads and they wear clothing. These creatures, which we have the back of, unless they turned around, we wouldn't be able to tell. But I'm so glad you pointed that out. That definitely does look like the equivalent of an oxygen tank, but a water tank for this creature.
And why does the parent, presumably,
Yeah.
Because they're taller and holding the hand. Why does the parent not have one?
You know what? Kids got to get used to breathing air sooner or later.
These are the insights you'll only learn by going frame by frame. And also that the back of the other creatures, if you just look from behind, it looks like the top of a Pizza Hut.
It does a bit. We see what I think is a human in the distance. But once again, Catfish here, down in front and center. Is that the Mando or a different Mandalorian? That's tough to tell. It's so dark. I'm not used to him looking like that. What do you think this Mando with this jetpack is?
I don't think that that's him. And I know it's weird and it's from behind and whatever, but that just doesn't look like his helmet to me.
No, it looks so much darker. Now, his helmet does reflect, so if the idea of this is we can see it's an overcast day here on the dock, so I suppose there's a chance it could be him, but you're right, it doesn't look like his, and that's a bit freaky to me. There are human beings in these shots, and so this is a bustling dock with nets. You assume they're catching some sea creatures. And
so now if you'd said, hey, Mando.
Yeah.
Then two people would turn to you and say, no, the other Mando.
Kiwi. This shot raises up so we can see more of the dock and the water on the left-hand side. We should note that there's some crates on the right-hand side of the screen up in the distance. And then when we cut to a new shot at frame 1166, we see through people walking, and we see a cloaked figure, Catfish. Cloaked figure who's seemingly watching this Mandalorian walk through the dock. What do you think?
I think it's a little hazy, but my first reaction is delicious. This is one hot, sizzling, cloaked figure.
It is. So do you follow wrestling, Catfish?
I don't. Do I need to follow? I had to follow MMA for season 1. I need to follow wrestling for season 2?
Well, that's right. This is the WWE wrestler Sasha Banks in a hood as a mysterious character.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had no idea.
So after Gina Carano as Cara Dune came in, they're bringing in somebody else. And of course, with a hood like that, some people might naturally think Jedi, and then as people walk through her, walk past her and cover her up at a certain point as they're walking through, she disappears. So she can disappear like a Jedi would. Of course, she disappears as Mando turns his head, and so this is a close-up shot of Mando as he theoretically turns to look at her, and then he turns over and looks, and it's like, wait a minute, she was just there. Now she's gone. Ooh, is this our very first Jedi, Catfish, ever seen in The Mandalorian? What do you think?
Absolutely.
It's definitely not our first wrestler. So yeah, as we go through, there she is.
And then, she was gone.
Now, the Mando, what's funny is that's his kind of move. Remember on the Prison Break episode, while the lights were flashing, one moment he'd be there, the next minute he'd be gone. And so Mando could be looking over and saying, hey, you're stealing my move, girl. Not cool, Sasha Banks. Not cool.
I mean, though, it begs the question, did he really see her in the first place? She's hidden in the shadows. She's got a black hood on, a whole black robe with a hood. You know, she's rocking the Obi-Wan look. Did he really see her, or did he feel her in his mind?
Well, I always wonder, you would hope there's some tools in that. I would hope there's some tools in that helmet that might be able to kind of spot and track people. Hey, this person's there. Hey, this person's gone. We cut on frame 1390 back to Baby Twota in his pram. Great question, Catfish. We know that at times this was a puppet. At other times this was a CG creature. Let's look right here in this frame, which is once again a close-up of Twota looking out of the pram. We see Mando standing on the right side of the screen. Would you guess, is this a puppet Twota, or is this CG, or is it some combination? What do you think?
I would guess it's puppet Twota to me. It seems like the mouth's moving a little bit. It's hard to tell. I mean, I think the thing that might be difficult with the puppet might be the eyes.
Right, the eyes don't move much in this shot. The eyes kind of stay consistently the same.
So here's my question, though. This is an interesting question, I think, for this season.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I mean, it feels like he should know at this point of all the dangerous and scary people who are looking for Twota, who have reach beyond the planets he's been on and have a far-ranging reach. Why is he? I always wanted to bring Twota with him, except for the times when I think he should have left Twota where he was.
Exactly right, yeah.
Why is he walking around in the middle of... I mean, he's basically just exposing Twota to everybody here. I don't mind when it's just him and Twota. You know, they're having a snowball fight in the snow.
Yeah.
They're playing the two of them out. But when he's rolling around on the docks somewhere and Twota is exposed, it feels like he's giving away his position to people. What do you think about that?
No, I think he is very much. I should point out that the camera tilts up from Twota in his pram. We see at frame 1445 a great image of the Mudhorn sigil on his armor, the Mando's armor. And so I would think there's the classic thing, act like you belong. You know, maybe this is just something I've been able to get along with in my life, but a lot of times I have snuck into places where I haven't been supposed to be. One of my favorites is when I snuck into the Beverly Hilton right before, you know, a couple of days before the Golden Globes, and they're setting up for the Golden Globes, and I just, you know, they don't want people walking in. I just walked in. I'm like, yeah, let me see this setup for the Golden Globes. Oh, great. And so maybe that's Mando's idea is just, hey, I walk in with this kid, nobody will question me because we are looking and acting like we belong there.
Yeah, that's fine that he's looking and acting like he belongs, but that doesn't stop somebody who's gotten to be on the lookout. It's worth a lot of blurg hides if you give us information. You know, it just seems foolhardy. That's all I'm going to say, foolhardy.
It does. Now, at frame 1493, we cut to graphics streaming this October, it tells us. Yeah, we get it. Okay, it's free. That's when it's coming. A month away. Can you believe it?
Well, but it says this October. When is it, Bubba, officially? October what?
October 30th. So it's barely making it into October.
Oh, man.
Not cool. On frame 1519, it cuts to an overhead shot of a ship, a water ship, I should point out, cutting through what looks like an ocean. And this is kind of thrilling to me. We don't often see boats in the Star Wars world. We have, obviously, in Attack of the Clone, Anakin and Amidala took a boat. We really just saw them getting out of it, though, as they went to one of their hideouts on Naboo. In The Last Jedi, we saw a boat, what seemed to be a boat, and then the water dropped off to a waterfall, and the ship just flew over the side and kept flying. And so now, once again, we're looking down on this boat, and it's got a big fin on the front. And so this is where I think, because we saw all those Quarrens before, is this possibly the home planet of somebody like Admiral Akbar? His species has that big octopus-like head, and his species is known as a Mon Calamari. Delicious. And we saw the Quarrens, who seem to have that little squid bit of their face. The planet they're from is Mon Cala, and those two species have always been warring for control of this planet. And so you hope that our good friend Mando Din Djarin isn't going to get in trouble there. It feels like a helicopter shot as we fly in closer and closer to this boat. Catfish, when was the last time you were out on a boat?
Oh, boy, the last time I was out on a boat, holy cow, it has been a long time. I'll tell you what, it's been over a year ago. I actually went out and when I went to Maui and did some rowing with Ms. Catfish.
Okay.
We saw some turtles. That was awesome. But it wasn't a big boat like this. It's been a while since I've been on a big boat. But like you, Bubba,
yeah,
I was delighted. I thought the same thing. I thought like, when are we ever on a Star Wars adventure where we're like on a boat? I mean, sure, we might get people fighting on something in a storm and have some strange turnarounds. The last movie. But to actually see him on a boat, it's very cool. And this is, and also the boat is sort of, this boat is, I will say, well used, clearly well used. Great art direction on it. I mean, the thing looks like it's a tub that's ready to fall apart. And I just love this kind of adventure. I mean,
well, what's funny?
There they are.
Catfish,
Yeah, go ahead.
you have always wanted the Mando's helmet to come off so we could see more emoting from this character. What's funny is we cut to a side shot looking at the boat on frame 1547. And we see Mando there, and we see some Quarrens working in the back, and we see Baby Yoda in his pram. But what's funny is that even without a face, something about this shot makes me think Mando hates this cruise. You know what I mean? Look at him. He's like, this is not fun. He's not enjoying the view. He's like, oh, great. Isn't this miserable? Behind him, this Quarren pulls on a rope. Hilarious.
Quick question. Since we fought all last season, you ended up being right, of course. We fought all last season about the helmet coming off. I wanted the helmet to come off more.
Right?
When he gets seasick, does he just vomit inside the helmet? There's like nothing. He can't take the helmet off. He just got to get
when he gets
sick in the helmet.
When he gets seasick, he throws up in the pram, then closes it. No.
Oh, yeah, presses the button. Sorry, pal.
Okay, we have another great close-up of Baby Yoda in the pram at 1,574. And they're still on this ship. You see all these ropes in the distance. Mm-hmm. This, to me... This could be puppets. These all could be puppets. We do see the eye blink a bit, and we see the head raise up and the ears move. But in those behind-the-scenes things, you did see the ears move. This could be all puppet. I love it.
Yeah. I'm more puppet, less CGI. I'm into that.
We cut at exact frame 1,600 to a shot of the Razor Crest in space with a old school style X-wing in the background, and then slowly coming into frame. And frame 16, 13, 14, 15, we see that now the Razor Crest has an X-wing on either side of it. We cut at frame 1626 into a cockpit as Mando looks over and he's been surrounded. Is this friendly? Are these X-wings guiding him somewhere? Or, as we see slowly beginning at frame 1640, the X-wings start opening into AKA X-foils into attack position. Is Mando in trouble? And you say that because suddenly at frame 1654, they're not in space, but Mando is flying through clouds, and behind him are two X-wings chasing after him. I love this shot too. A lot of times in space, we all love space battles, but you need, something to show that it's moving very fast. And so here we can tell by the clouds that the Razor Crest is speeding away, and two X-wings, theoretically, the same X-wings we saw, are chasing him through the clouds. Hell yeah.
Now, Bubba, I always like to consider that my ignorance and stupidity is sort of a useful guide for people who don't know don't know the world as good as I do. And so in this case, I'm going to say I need a little bit of a reminder because it's mentioned. We're not obviously going over the audio in this trailer.
Right.
But it's mentioned, and I believe that it was talked a bit last year, not enough so that I remember it, about why the Jedi and the Mandalorians are kind of ancient foes. Was it because that it was supposedly... Did the Jedis get blamed for the attack on Mandalore? Were they actually a part of the attack on Mandalore? Why are these ancient foes?
Great question, Catfish. We'll try to go through it more compact. So the Mandalorian culture was always based on warriors. For all our fellow Game of Thrones fans, you think of the Ironborn, how they were always Vikings raiding. That was their culture. Or you think of the Dothraki. They would always raid places. That was their culture. And so, sure enough, the Mandalorians were raiders, and a Jedi in a galaxy trying to have peace would put the Jedi against them. And so the Mandos developed all their weapons to be able to fight the Jedi. Moving forward, though, the siege of Mandalore, which was seen in the Clone Wars cartoon, that was some evil villains, including Death Watch, a rogue group of Mandalorians, had taken over Mandalore. Then the planet of Mandalore, which never wanted to be part of the Republic, to save itself, then the stormtroopers and clone troopers came in and took it back. But as they took it back, you could tell that Mandalore was so suddenly no longer free. It was part of the Republic. So in that case, the Jedi were, because the Jedi were working with stormtroopers and clone troopers, the Jedi were kind of leading the charge to take the planet back. And you would think, hey, you're helping us take our planet back from, the evil Death Watch. But of course, if Death Watch has a sympathy, yes, it was taken over by a rogue group of Mandalorians called Death Watch, but if Death Watch had the public sympathy, then the siege of Mandalore really was falling to the Republic. And the Jedi's leading those clone troopers taking over your planet. You could see how that could be the last image that were left with people. And I should point out,
kind of like the Russians helping East Germany.
A great point. Russians help East Germany and then just stay and take over.
Yes. All right. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Now, Catfish, we cut at frame 1707 to a desert planet again, and flying in. First scene
please
at 1708.
Name all the desert planets.
No, dear Lord, no. But if this is Tatooine flying in on a speeder, is this the Mando? And here's where you really get crazy. People who zoom in on this image, what they tend to say, Catfish, is that if you zoom in on this image, the Mando appears to be wearing a jetpack, a rocket pack. But then also, there appears to be a rocket pack below him. And people say, well, that looks like Boba Fett's rocket pack. This kind of smudge pattern on this lower rocket pack matches one that Boba Fett had. Boba Fett's rockets were two white rockets on either side of the jetpack. You can see that. And then people wonder, are we seeing Boba's helmet on the side of the speeder? This is, a blurry shot because his speeder is going so fast and flying away. But we saw the Razor Crest flying above Tatooine in that Bantha and Tusken Raider earlier in the trailer. We saw at the end of that Toro Calican episode last year, boots that looked like Boba Fett's with the spur jangle. We know that according to the legend of this, some Jawas came across some Mandalorian armor outside of the Sarlacc pit, the thing that Boba Fett fell into in Return of the Jedi. And that apparently some character named Cobb Vance purchased this Boba Fett armor from the Jawas. And so is this Mando claiming Boba Fett's armor back? But of course, one thing people say is that, well, wait a minute. Is Boba Fett still alive? Lots of questions. It's impossible, in my opinion, to really tell from this blurry shot. But you can definitely tell that it does look, at least in blurriness, like Boba Fett's jetpack, and the Mando has his own. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Are people really? Again, you are a part of this. I'm a part of the casual enjoyer. I mean, it's not that I don't have my opinions about what is good Star Wars content and what is not, but I'm not a super fan. Are super fans really excited for us to build up this whole story just to sideline the Mandalorian and make it about Boba Fett? It feels like the more it overshadows, we're having this. I have the same problem I have with the other things, which is like tying it in rather than expanding. Tying it into what we have already.
I think you're coming up with a great point, Catfish. And listeners, we always want to know what you think. At DoublePHQ on Twitter and Instagram. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/DoublePHQ. If you're watching this on YouTube, write it in the comments. How do you feel about this? I think The Mandalorian in Season 1 did a pretty great job of tying in what you would say the legends, the classic parts of the mythology, and still not requiring you to know anything about it. Like the last shot of The Mandalorian last year was Moff Gideon cutting his way out of a TIE fighter with this thing called the Darksaber. If you knew from the cartoons or other tangential material that was the Darksaber and it was important to the Mandalorian culture, it was a cool Easter egg. If you didn't, it's still just a cool visual of, oh, wow, he's got this awesome weapon he does. Wow, let's see where this goes. So say you're a casual Star Wars fan and didn't know about the Darksaber. I think you can enjoy it on both levels. I think pulling in things like Boba Fett, I think the casual people do know Boba Fett because he appeared in 3 of the 6 original films before this new trilogy. And so, well, I guess actually with the special editions, he's now appeared in 4 of the original 6 movies of the trilogy. And so I think it's a fine line they've got to play. I think they're trying to appeal to everybody. So maybe to appeal to those diehards, you do want these kind of Easter eggs, Catfish. So maybe that's not a great answer, but...
I understand the Easter egg, but what I'm saying is like kind of to set up and keep dropping hints almost makes it seems like, like, okay, we're setting you guys up for what's the really big, important reveal. And so instead of like the other things that are happening here is the main story.
I see it.
It feels like if you're going to keep dropping little hints like this, that you're setting up something that's going to be big instead of, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I completely agree. I think you're right. Jumping into frame 1734.
Oh my God, I'm so excited that we got to frame 1734 because not watching it frame by frame, I said, "Is that my boy?" And I couldn't tell.
Because he's got a gray beard. Sure enough, it's our boy Greef Karga. We're on Navarro. Greef Karga is there with Cara Dune. They are walking out, but Greef Karga has let his goatee go white. What do you think? Is this too shocking? Is this trying to tell us that years have passed? Is this trying to tell us that Greef no longer believes in Just for Men? What do you think?
I think it's because our girl said to him she preferred the silver fox look.
Oh, you think there's a chance for romance between Cara Dune and Greef Karga?
Why not?
If she gets married, does she become Cara Dune Karga?
Great point. I will hope for it only for that reason.
So that's Navarro. We spent a lot of time on that planet in Season 1. We assume, because it has the same gate into the city that we seem to see in Season 1. We go forward just a bit.
Well, also, hold on. This also feels like, just looking at it here,
yeah,
the looks on their faces, it looks like that's them greeting our boy.
That's a great point. So Mando, theoretically, he's going to go back to Tatooine, and now he's going to go back to Navarro. He can't, he's supposed to go find Yoda's species, but he just keeps going back to the same places. Come on, Mando. Progress, buddy, progress.
Well, like I said earlier, I'd like to see him do all new things. But on the other hand, we really did enjoy seeing Cara Dune, Greef Karga, and Ugnulty again.
R.I.P.
in Season 1, not to mention our favorite character, the client.
R.I.P. the client. Big R.I.P. the client. So, if they can bring back Palpatine, they can bring back the client.
I agree completely.
On frame 1716, we see 3 TIE fighters all lined up. You would assume this is Navarro. I'm just assuming that because the landscape looks a bit like this. As we go frame by frame, we can see one of these TIE fighters wasn't actually even touching the ground. It kind of jumps up from the ground automatically as it unfolds its wings to raise up. Very impressive. Also, it then cuts at frame 1796 to stormtroopers running through a hall. This looks like any Empire base. This looks like First Order base. I mean, this is the way the bad guys tend to look in Star Wars world. These bases that are all gray, metallic, with lighting on the wall. And the fact we have stormtroopers running, is this a Star Destroyer? Does Moff Gideon, what kind of power does he have? The Empire was truly defeated at the Battle of Endor, the moon of Endor, I should say, where the second Death Star was destroyed and the Emperor was killed. But apparently, because they had so many weapons of mass destruction, they're still there. They're still causing trouble.
I mean, my God. Well, I mean, we do know, like I said, we have got, we got some bad guys after him. Moff Gideon is still on the hunt. He must especially be really upset that somehow the Mandalorian was able to escape with the child in a way that I still don't quite believe.
Well, how about this, Catfish? Why doesn't Moff Gideon appear in the trailer? He's a big star. He's not only famous for, going back to do the right thing, but, Giancarlo Esposito has been in so many things. Currently, he's a villain. Gus Fring, the early years on Better Call Saul, he's a villain in Season 2 of The Boys on Amazon Prime, and he's the villain here in The Mandalorian. We don't see him at all. How much do you think we'll see him in Season 2?
I mean, great work if you can get it. I love it.
Do you think we'll see a lot of him in Season 2, or will it be more henchmen like it was in Season 1 and these stormtroopers?
I feel like it'll be more henchmen. I'd like to see him a few more times simply because I mean, I feel like we get these little like mini bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have he's got to be sprinkled throughout the season simply because so when he comes on the screen you can hiss at him. Again, this is like we always compare this to Saturday morning serials, and really, the evil come on and go boo, hiss. I just feel like we need to have, I think, a concrete villain that he's afraid of that is closing in on him. We need to see that.
I like that. I should point out, we also don't seem to see Dr. Pershing, who is the one who was talking to the client, always saying that he wanted the child unharmed. At frame 1804, we cut to a shot of stormtroopers on old school speeder bikes. It's a rocky planet from what we can tell. And they're on some base, and they go over the edge. They do a waterfall. I didn't know speeder bikes could do this, that could just drop and be like, oh, crap, let's go. I love it.
Holy cow. That is awesome.
Would you want to do that if this piece of equipment existed? Would you do that? That is a hardcore fall right there, buddy.
Oh, heck yeah, I would do it.
We cut to a shot, and this is definitely some crazy speeder bar action. And Catfish, you are a motorcycle rider. Do you see how his leg drops a bit, like in his turn as we get to frame 1860? He's dropping his leg as his turn to almost drag along the side. I love it.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And this is the old scout troop armor on these stormtroopers. Love it. From Return of the Jedi. At frame 1864, we're suddenly in some sort of puddle, and there's a grate above us. Hands are bursting out of the puddle, rising up, grabbing it, and that's Mando's helmet. Can Mando's helmet, you were talking about, can it exist with oxygen in space? Can he go underwater? Is this back on the water planet? We don't know. Any thoughts, Catfish? Is this torture, like he's been captured and thrown in with a beast in some...
Yeah, this really feels like a jail. And in fact, think about it. If you were on a water planet and you wanted to put people in jail, this is exactly the kind of cell you would use for somebody.
I completely agree. We cut immediately, though, back to the rock planet where, theoretically, those stormtroopers and scout troopers on those speeder bikes were. And we see the Mando with his rocket pack. He's running towards a cliff. This is, what do you call it when you jump off a cliff with a parachute? This is great. The rocket fires off. You would think wearing a cape with a rocket pack would be a fire hazard, but he takes off, and then it cuts down below at frame 1916 as he rocket mans his way off.
That's called base jumping.
Love it.
Bubba. It stands for Building Antenna Structure Earth.
Would you do that? Have you done that? Because I know you've skydived before.
I have not done any base jumping, for sure. I mean, I discontinued my skydiving career a number of years ago. I never even got to jump out of a helicopter or an air balloon.
That would be fun out of an air balloon.
As part of getting certified, you do have to do a low altitude jump. So you have to jump out at like 3,000. But people who base jump
do that, I'm afraid.
Jump at like 1,000, 1,500 feet and pull right away. Man. And they don't have secondary chutes, so if something goes wrong,
well, you wouldn't have time at that.
It's over. It's over. Yeah.
At frame 1970, we cut to a planet which we may have seen before when Mando and the pram with Yoda were coming into the city, and they had those street lights shooting down. Now Mando, we see somebody hung up by their feet from one of these street lights, and it seems that Mando shoots his gun and blows up the street light. I want to point out that this is a definitely industrial city where we see Star Wars graffiti, Catfish.
Oh, yeah. Look, we got some stormtroopers. Looks like we got C-3PO.
Right, C-3PO graffiti on this wall. How is that possible?
You know, graffiti's got a graffiti. Now, here's my question to you. Well, it looks like one of the Pizza Hut guys to me.
It's like Hell's Kitchen.
No, but I mean, it's the guys with the triangular head.
No, you mean the Quarren for sure.
Yeah, not the Noid.
Okay.
Oh my God, what an old reference. Now, why is he shooting out the light rather than shooting the guy down? I don't understand.
He wants
It's
it
to,
in
like,
darkness. I can bring you in hot, or I can bring you in cold. I can
I
bring
know,
you in the
he's-
light, or I can bring you in the shadows.
He wants to taunt the guy. I could cut you down, but instead I'm going to expose you to light burns.
Love it. There's sparks flying off as he shot out the light. So good. Mm-hmm. We cut then, and then we're back on an icy snow planet, maybe the one he landed on before, where we saw Baby Yoda in the snow. This is 1947. And we see Mando kind of stepping through what looks like an ice cavern. Not safe. Would you do this? Would you go spelunking in an ice cavern?
How much are you going to pay me?
How
many credits will I get?
Note that the pram isn't with him this time. He is holding Twoda in his arms like a good daddy, like a good member should. Oh, so good. Then we cut to a shot. This appears to be the Razor Crest entering an atmosphere, possibly, and it's completely on fire. Not
it's coming in hot.
And we cut to a super wide shot looking down on the what we assume is the Razor Crest entering this cloudy area.
And it's still coming in hot.
Right. Then we get at frame 2025, we get to a great shot, one that Jon Favreau, the creator, teased on his Instagram account of Gamorrean guards, the green pig-like guards who guarded Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. Two of them are in what is obviously supposed to invoke a boxing ring, and we see people cheering. We cut at frame 2059 to the Gamorrean guards, and they have axes like they did at
Now
Jabba's palace.
boxing. Now what's amazing is we'll go back because I think it's about frame 2045.
Yep.
Where you see when their axes, which again totally not approved in an official boxing ring. I want to make that clear.
Okay.
When the axes hit each other, it's not just like a regular thing. It looks like some sort of energy pulse.
Right. Is this a Vibra axe, which would have some energy on it? Do the axes have little shields? And so you got to bust through the shield? Which fighter are you taking, Catfish? You like boxing. You like to bet. Which of these two Gamorreans are you going to pick? Are you going to pick the one on the left or the one who we see their back on the right?
Okay, I'm going to pick the one on the left, and I'll tell you why after watching lots of boxing.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's a little hard to tell, but, your power derives from your legs in boxing, and the guy on the left appears to have, stronger calves. Now, that's not always the case. There have been some skinny guys who have boxed who've had a lot of power in their calves, but I'm going to go with the shorter, stockier guy. I feel like he can bring more power from his core.
Okay, that is great. I'll take. What kind of odds am I going to get for the other guy? I love it.
I mean, I would say even.
Hell no! You got to give me something.
All right, I'll give you 1.5 to 1. Come on, I'll give you. You bet 100 to win 150. How's that?
Love it. Above the boxing ring on this one shot, you can see there are these flags or sigils, as Game of Thrones would call them, up above the ring. This is like there was at Maz Kanata's castle in The Force Awakens. I don't recognize any of these designs, but fans, if you do recognize any of these patterns that these flags have on them, write us and let us know. Next up at frame 2054, we see a one-eyed alien that could be Gor Koresh.
And why do you think that's Gor Koresh?
Well, Gor Koresh is an alien known as a oh boy, this is hard to say. He's an alien known as an Abyssin. You tell me. Abyssin. Abyssin?
Yeah, I guess Abyssin. I was going to say Abyssinian, but that doesn't sound right. Abyssin. Sure, why not?
And so Disney wrote his name in the closed caption of the credits as Gor, G-O-R, Koresh, K-O-R-E-S-H.
Okay, well, that's a good hint.
When he was speaking, he said, this is no place for a child. So he's an Abyssin, and he is speaking to the Mando there in the crowd. The Abyssin was an alien we first saw way back in A New Hope as this one-eyed, creepy creature. I have to be honest, I love all Star Wars creature designs. I'm not a huge fan of this one. What do you think?
The Cyclops, I could do without a Cyclops.
Yeah, it just doesn't look special enough. The one that appeared back in the original Cantina, the Mos Eisley Cantina back in 77, yeah, it was never especially that great. But what can you say? It looked more alien than this. This just looks like a humanoid with one eye. And so that's another reason I'm not quite a fan of it.
And a bad comb over.
Oh, that's how I wear my hair, Catfish. Now, when we cut to a front view of Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and this character, the closed caption referred to as Gor Koresh, we see that he's got like a white leather jacket and he's got these octagons on it. Very intriguing. What could those symbols be, I wonder?
I don't know. I'm more worried, Bubba, about what appear to be four thugs looking menacingly at Mando.
They are. You got to be careful there. When you deal with Gor Koresh, you don't want to end up in a Gor mess. Would you believe I just thought of that? I didn't spend weeks coming up with that joke.
No. I know you've been thinking on it forever.
And so, sure enough, these thugs pull blasters out on our buddy the Mando. And, of course, what happens? Baby Twota is in his pram.
The best bit in the whole trailer.
We love bits, you and I. So, Baby Twota, he's going to notice when, through the Force or just through his eyes, when Mando's in trouble. Now, Mando, we cut to a blurry shot where Mando gets out his weapons, those special weapons that he got and he bought where they can fire off and kill villains in every direction. And what does Baby Twota do when he sees this weapon on Mando's wrist light up, Catfish?
He says, later, time to close up the hood and go Betty bye.
I laughed so hard when I saw this.
Heck yeah.
But also, does this imply to you that Twota's a wimp? Twota, who helped fight the Mudhorn, now he's like, later, losers, I'm out.
Well, it is. This is kind of a joke, but it does bring up something that is sort of that it feels like the series has to play both ways on, right? Because he does have the ability to get Mando out of trouble whenever he wants. Like I said before, he could end up being a weapon of mass destruction, but already he has enough power to take care of any existing threats in this bar. So they got to kind of play both ways with it. They can't use him as the Deus Ex Machina, even though he has those powers, but then they kind of have to decide, they have to figure out in a way that makes sense to us when he's going to back away and from things and when he is going to exert his power. And I feel like they're a little bit boxed into a corner there.
No, I completely agree with you. It's going to be interesting when they need him to be the child. Twota is a child. When they need him to be the powerful being that can choke and put a Mudhorn to sleep, he's got to do that. They go to black for several frames. We're jumping all the way up.
Yeah, that's just so that we can enjoy our giggles.
Right. So they jump forward to frame 2346. We can see it appears to be after the fight because all the fans have left and the ring is empty. But two bad guys...
And the blood's already been mopped up.
Right. Two bad guys surrounding Mando get taken down. These villains are the same species, it seems to be, as a great Star Wars villain, Darth Maul. So, Catfish, do you remember what Darth Maul's species was?
The Red Tails?
He's a Dathomirian, Zabrak, and that is an alien with these kind of horns that grow all over their heads. As we see this one in the foreground fall, we can tell that he has a projectile stuck into his chest. Not a good feeling, huh?
I mean, it all depends. What if you've got an itch there?
He's also got tattoos across his chest, you'll note, just like our Darth Maul had tattoos. His horns on his head haven't grown much further than Darth Maul's did, and then he collapses in a puddle. Did you like Darth Maul as a design, and what do you think of these aliens, Catfish?
I mean, I think they're cool. I thought Darth Maul was cool too. It's kind of, it's fascinating to see things that we saw as, we saw like one-offs, and now to see like more of these things.
Catfish.
You know what I mean? Like Darth Maul was like, okay, that's a Darth Maul. I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's like, we're the kind of situation we're in right now when we're calling him Baby Yoda or Twoda because we still don't know what the heck the species is even.
As he falls to the ground, this alien, I love that we see the soles of his shoes, and they really look like some typical shoes you might get at Tom McCann. I mean, these are not special. What do you think of the tread on these shoes of this dead alien here, Catfish?
Well, they appear to have enough grip on them to be able to, when you get stuck with a knife, for that to have nice grip on the floor before you fall over.
So in the trailer, once again, we haven't talked much about lines. He says, "Wherever I go, he goes," referring to Baby Yoda, and then it ends with a classic callback, "This is the way." At frame 2483, we cut to a shot of the A in the Mandalorian logo, and instead of in season 1, it was just Mando in that middle A, we now see it's Mando and Twoda, Baby Yoda, is next to him.
Aww.
We lighten up, we fade up from the A in the center to see the new Mandalorian logo for season 2. And that's the trailer, Catfish. What do you think? We did it.
I mean, others thought it might not have been possible and shrunk away from it. And now they see, after listening to ours, that it definitely is not possible. But we're done.
We are done. So let's talk briefly about our coverage, listeners. We want you to be part of this fun journey with us. The first episode is going to come out on Friday, October 30th. Our first podcast will come out the following Monday, my birthday, November 2nd. This is days before an election, Catfish, here in the United States. Are you excited for that election?
I'm so terrified about the election and what's going to come the 2 months after the election. So this will be a nice distraction from the disintegration of the United States as we know it.
We're doing a good job with that. We don't need the Mando's help destroying it. He causes damage. We've done a lot of damage without the Mando. Catfish, now last year was special. They actually had 2 episodes the very first week. So we haven't learned the true schedule yet, but if they stick to 1 episode every Friday, that means this season 2 will be over on Friday, December 18th. That's 1 week before the holiday of Christmas. And so our last podcast will be on December 21st. Any closing thoughts, Catfish? Any excitement? Any bounties? Are you going to bring this season 2 in hot, or is it going to come in cold? What do you think?
I'm super excited about this season. I'm just it's exciting. How could not anyone not be excited? If they asked me, I definitely did not pay for Mulan, but if they said to me, we're going to charge you an extra $30 for the season of The Mandalorian, I would say yes, I'm in. And if they charged me $30 an episode, I would be out. But $30, I would be in. So this is super what I'm looking forward to. I have tried to find a lot of things on the Disney Channel, and besides watching movies that were horribly ridiculous from the 70s.
Oh, man. Which one, Catfish? I was looking for one that I haven't found on there called North Avenue Irregulars. That was terrible, but I think I remember seeing that as a kid. How about you?
I mean, this one I'd never seen, but it's really bad. There were a lot of Kurt Russell, which is amazing. He ended up having the career he had. The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. I tried to watch that one. It was ridiculous.
That was a series that they did with him where it was the Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. He was like the strongest man in the world. I don't remember if they made 2 or 3, but yeah, they did a bunch of those high school / college comedies with Kurt Russell. Are they still terrible, or are they any good?
It's really bad. And you know what else is bad? But also, I remembered it as a kid. It was one of those movies I remembered. I'm going to say it had Ed Asner and Don Knotts in it.
Okay.
And it is
Gus.
The amazing field goal kicking mule, Gus.
Are you ready for some football? Gus was bad. I watched it as a kid, but Gus was terrible.
It's so bad. The thing I always remember was, and of course it's the reason why I remembered it is because he says it like 12 times in the movie, is when he wants Gus to kick the ball, he says, Oyich, because he's I can't remember, Lithuanian or something like that.
Catfish, would you be surprised that actor didn't go on to much?
Well, you know what, though? I mean, if you actually look at the movie, Gus is the smartest being in the movie.
No, I'm talking about Gus.
The end of the movie, he decides not to kick the ball because he knows that the guy who holds the ball for him has to be the hero.
Right, and remember his girlfriend said "oyich" when he kicked it.
Well,
all right, Catfish. We are way off tangent, listeners. If you've watched some crazy crap on Disney Plus, write to us and tell us. We love talking about that too. I'm going to say it yet again. At double PHQ, that's the word double, the single letter P, and then the letters HQ for headquarters, at double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/double PHQ. If you've made it this far on YouTube, subscribe, leave us a comment. We love it. It's a month away. This is the way. Mando Season 2. Booyah.
I'm so excited. It is. I guess what I was trying to say was this is the only reason I'm retaining my Disney subscription.
Did you watch Hamilton?
I've not watched Hamilton.
I haven't watched Hamilton either. I know that was a big one for a lot of people. Okay.
Yeah.
It's time to wrap up. How can our Padawans, how can other foundlings reach out to you, Catfish?
You can hit me up at CJGman67. Don't tell me to watch Hamilton. Bub and I went to go see a touring version of it. I'm sure the one on Disney is better, but we have seen it.
Yeah.
So don't at me about that. Bubba, how can people reach you to yell at you for not watching Hamilton?
You can find me at Fit and Trim on Twitter. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And we will talk to you after the first episode of The Mandalorian on
Parsec Passion. I knew you watched Gus. You heard me. You were going, it had to be Gus.
I mean, Gus. I watched it when I had my sister and her family visiting it, and Allison was here, and basically everybody left me alone to watch it in the living room. They're like, it was that thing, I don't care how much this meant to your childhood, I'm not watching this crap.
Good for them.